Welcome to United We Spay, the show dedicated to promoting affordable spay-neuter services nationwide. Each episode delves into the heart of the movement, sharing inspiring stories and driving positive change. Our goal is to raise awareness, educate, and empower, addressing overpopulation's root causes to ensure every animal has a chance for a better life. Hosted by Stacy LeBaron and the United Spay Alliance team, we're on a mission to change lives. Fed up with the fixation on symptoms in the animal welfare conversation, it's time to change the narrative. Join us on United We Spay, where we make a difference by spreading knowledge and building a compassionate world for animals. Let's put prevention first and spotlight spay-neuter in the animal welfare space.
You're listening to United We Spay, a podcast from United Spay Alliance. United Spay Alliance works to promote accessible, affordable, and timely spay-neuter services because an ounce of prevention today can prevent untold suffering tomorrow. Spay-neuter, it's public health for pets. I'm Stacy LeBaron, United Spay Alliance board member and host of the show. And today we are speaking with Melinda Grohol. Melinda is a longtime freelance writer whose passion is writing about people and things that make a difference in life with a keen interest in and love for animals. Melinda was captivated by the Animal Planet show, Dr. Jeff, Rocky Mountain Vet, and all that Jeff accomplished in his practice, particularly with regard to spay, neuter, and affordable vet care. Desiring to know the backstory about Dr. Jeff, Melinda crafted a letter to him expressing an interest in writing his biography and sent it via snail mail. Some weeks later, Jeff called her personally and said he was interested. After making several trips to Colorado to visit Jeff, see his practice, and talk with many colleagues, friends, and family, the book Beyond the Boundaries came into being, detailing the inspirational story of Dr. Jeff, his platform of spay and neuter, and his veterinary work around the world. Melinda, I'd like to welcome you to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here, Stacy.
So before we jump into talking about Beyond the Boundaries, can you share with our listeners a little bit about why you are passionate about spay neuter? And, is there a single story or animal that might stand out to you?
As I was growing up, we didn't have much thought about spay neuter. I'm of the older generation, and my parents and my friends, they said, oh, just let the animals reproduce as they wanted to. Well, that produced a whole lot of unwanted puppies and kittens. And so when I got older, I began to look into it, and as I got my own pets, I made sure that they were spay-neutered because I realized how many we were killing in the shelters, and it was just heartbreaking to me. So I thought, let's prevent the problem, and let's go forward. So it started at early age, and then I became even more impassioned when I saw other people in the world doing things towards spay-neuter. When I met Esther Mechler, when I met with Dr. Jeff, and it just reinforced that this is such a need and we can help our animal friends, and that spay-neuter is the best way to do it. So it's kind of been an ongoing passion that's built over the years, and I've seen things that have been so helpful. So it's not one particular story, but it's a work in progress, I like to call it.
You really grasped the idea of spay-neuter as a prevention tool for pet overpopulation pretty early in the process. And I think it sometimes takes folks a little bit of time because they get very involved in the whole rescue. I want to take animals in, I want to help them, but they don't necessarily think about spay neuter as anything more than maybe what I would do for my own pets, but not thinking really holistically about it. When did you really get that picture of, we need to offer spay neuter services to everyone out there?
Well, I had friends who did work in animal shelters, and I saw what happened when the pets would come in who weren't, and then they would just send them out again anyway. And I began to question this. I said, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense right here. And it was a matter of talking with them. I don't know that I made an impact right away, but things just kept building and building. It, like you said, it is a process. People don't get that mentality right away. But from seeing my friends who worked in the shelters, from just visiting shelters myself, looking for pets, it all came forward. That spay neuter was the way. I don't know. I guess it's just a mindset that was, like you said, was early on and kind of just transferred over. But it takes a lot of conversation with people to get that through to them.
Tell me, when you first met Dr. Jeff, what was your impression of him?
Dr. Jeff, to me, is what I call a leftover hippie. And I told him that, and he laughed. I met him a few years ago now when I first started this book. I went out of my own accord and just said hi and looked up, and he was exactly as you would see on the show. There was no pretense. It was just, hi, I'm Jeff, I'm Melinda, and he's a year older than I am. So we're of that same generation, that 60s generation. We love it.
I really enjoyed reading the book. I had the opportunity to check it out over the weekend, and it was definitely a page turner. You could really see the evolution of his life and his growth and discovery, and very personal. He talks about he's had multiple wives and challenges growing up, and in his sort of aha moment came right out to me right within the first 30 pages when he was all excited about working for a humane society. And one of the first things he had to do was to euthanize 56 puppies. And he didn't realize that was going to be his job. And so he then decided to kind of change his vision and his direction pretty early on in his career. When you were interviewing him, did you get a sense of how he was sort of figuring out how this was going to look?
It was putting a lot together, a lot of puzzle pieces. Jeff was very straightforward with me. And that turning point was simply when he realized that he had to kill those puppies, and they were perfectly healthy, but they had to make room for the new incoming batch. And he just said, no, I am not going to do this. I'm going to spay neuter everything so that I won't have to kill. And I don't know, he just kind of absorbed that into his mindset. And everything he did was, from that point on, was predicated on that particular premise. I'm going to spay neuter. So he did. He started out spay neuter in a mobile clinic, took it all around the Western United States. I think he was one of the first, especially for small animals. I know there were large animal vets that went out, but he never wavered from that platform. And even all the other things that he's done, his worldwide work, it's always based on spay neuter. So I think he just integrated it right from that moment. At least that's the sense that I got when I was speaking with him. And it's just passion. It underlies every single thing he does. When the pets come into his clinic, even today, if they are not spay neutered, they must be spay neutered while they're there. He doesn't waver on that point. He's never really had any problem with that either. A couple people who breed their dogs don't want that to happen, but then they go elsewhere. But if they come into Jeff's clinic, they get spay neutered, period.
Initially, he started out as like the veterinarian doing the surgeries, but at some point he had sort of an evolution, more of an academic or teacher, trying to train others and trying to work with organizations not only in the United States, but in other countries. What is he like as a teacher?
I've seen him in the clinic when I was there visiting and working with new vets. He really stands right beside them. He's instructing them. He challenges them to do it. But first he'll say, okay, I'm going to show you how to do this. And now watch carefully. You can ask questions, and then I'm going to have you do it. But he's right by their side watching them as they do this. But he doesn't want to not challenge them because that's part of what they have to learn. And even in all of his worldwide work, the teaching is based on how are we going to stop pet overpopulation? You're going to learn to spay neuter. Yeah, I can teach you to do these surgeries, but let's start with the basics. Let's start with spay neuter first, and then we'll go forward from there. I've seen him as a very patient teacher. I haven't been a student of his, but I've watched him teach others. And even the veterinarians who are working with him in his clinic, they call him over, hey, Jeff, come over here. I need your opinion about this. And they'd ask while they were working with him. So I think he's very open and receptive. He wants to teach. He wants to pass the knowledge on so that other vets can do it with experience and courage and knowledge, and they don't have to be scared. And spay neuter is one part of it, but there's other things too. But he's willing to teach them.
Yeah. And it seems like he's even willing to continue the learning process on his own, too, because he has done some work with large animals in addition to understanding the needs in other countries. And so it seems like many folks will say, oh, well, spay neuter, it's a simple procedure. You end up just doing it over and over again, and it's boring. And I don't think anything seems very boring with Dr. Jeff.
Oh, no. He will tackle anything. One of his most memorable experiences that he noted to me was when he spayed the jaguar. okay, what do you do with this big cat? At first he said, oh, it's just, it's just a big cat. Well, he gets in there and he realizes, well, I think there's a little more to it than that. You have to remember how much sedation you have to give, how long they're under sedation, and they could wake up at any time. So he was hustling and he was very concentrated in his effort about how he was going to spay this jaguar and get it done quickly and effectively. He never stops learning. He'll do anything. I mean, he's done wolves. He's worked on alligators. He's worked on camels. He's spay neutered a camel. The first one was really cool. He was at a remote place, Leadville, Colorado. They went up to do some work in the rural area where there was no vet access. And he never knows what he's going to get when he gets to those areas. So one day in this particular setting, a camel walks up and he thinks, okay, what am I going to have to do to this camel? Well, the camel need neutered. And well, he figured it out. He said, I'm going to do it. And he just went on. He's done lions. He's done tigers. Any place that needs help, that's struggling to find vet care, he's willing to go in and work on them, whether it be spay neuter or something else. Now, granted, he does his research. He figures out how much anesthesia we're going to need. And he looks up information. He just doesn't do this blind. He's voracious and he'll do anything. He's not afraid of any animal.
Big change for community cats starts with strong, well-supported programs. That's where United Spay Alliance's community cat grants come in, offering matching funds, mentorship, and fundraising tools to help your organization thrive. We run 2 grant cycles a year. So now is the time to start your application. Deadlines are March 31st and August 31st. Visit unitedspayalliance.org/community-cats-grants to learn more and apply. And it's amazing because in addition to his work as a veterinarian, he was also an avid runner, and he's had a lot of personal challenges throughout his life. He's had some health challenges for those that watch the show. My understanding is season 2 is a tearjerker about his personal life and his own health and how he just continues to work through those challenges. And I've met Dr. Jeff a couple of times, and he's, as you say, he is what he is, and he's a pretty humble guy. He's like, I'm just here doing what I'm doing. But it seems like he wakes up every day and is like, what are we going to do today? And he's not idle, even if he's not necessarily feeling that great. How do you want people to receive this book? I mean, would you like to see folks that are interested in becoming a veterinarian using him as a role model, which it seems there are several folks there that look to Jeff as a role model, but also for the community at large, our animal welfare community? What is the goal of writing Dr. Jeff's story?
Most of the time, all of us work within boundaries of what's prescribed for us. And Jeff is not one of those people. He's one who says, wait a minute, let's do something a little different here. And when I read Margaret Nussbaum's book about justice for animals, our collective responsibility, I saw someone who was doing something outside of the boundaries, somebody who was doing something to make a difference in life. And I thought he could inspire other people in a number of ways. Maybe they do want to be a vet. Maybe they want to know what happened on the show, or maybe they want to know why he's so impassioned about animals or why he's passionate about spay neuter. But his philosophy about let's reconnect our animals with us as part of our family, how to take best care of them, that's what I wanted to get across to people. There's a different way to do this. You don't have to be an expensive veterinarian because you can certainly make money in a bunch of different ways, but you can also share your knowledge. If Jeff can share his passion, if Jeff can share his knowledge, if he can inspire one person to do something different, maybe it's just to get their cat or dog spayed, then that's going to be the reason for other people to do something different. So he's a role model, not just for veterinary students, but for those who want to take care of their animals too. And I really wanted to tell that story. I'm not going to write a story about some puff piece or the Kardashians or anything like that, but somebody who really, really, really makes a difference. And that's Jeff, the Rocky Mountain vet. So I had to tell that story. That was why I wrote it. I told Jeff too, very rarely have I felt compelled to do something in my life. When I saw this story, when I saw him on Animal Planet, this is an idea that would not let me go. I knew that if I did not write this book and tell his story, that I would regret it the rest of my life. So that's how I'm making a difference by telling his story that'll make a difference to someone else. So I was compelled.
Yeah. So let's talk about Melinda, the writer, for a minute. You talked about being compelled by this subject matter. Is that how you are naturally as a writer? Or tell us, how did you come to this position to be able? I could never write a book, right? So, how is it that you have developed these skills? Are you a professional writer? Do you write other items, or is this just a calling?
I've been a long-term freelance writer. I've written about other things. I've written about Cleveland Ballet Dancing Wheels, which is a troupe of able-bodied and disabled dancers. And I didn't paraphrase that quite correctly, but that's the gist of it. I've written about church histories. I've written about family histories, things that make you think outside of the box, people and things. Even in my public relations and marketing career that I've had in the past, it's always been in the service industry. I worked for a retirement community for a while, so working with older folks, bringing their stories to life. It's just always something that's fascinated me. Right now, I'm a bookseller. I work for Barnes& and Noble, so I see lots of different books come through, and I'm a voracious reader. And I like a good story. So it's always been something I've done. But this book, I must say, would not have come about were it not for the encouragement of my daughter in particular, because I kept talking about it and she goes, Mom, just write about it. And I'm going like, okay. And then we started, and she was one of my editors for the book as well. So she's seen it from every transition that it's gone through, because there have been several. And I just love to write. I love to tell a good story. I love to read good books. So this just was like a natural for me. It's taken a couple years. It hasn't happened immediately. And there's been several revisions along the way, but I'm very proud of it. I'm so glad I could tell his story. It's my calling, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. So, without spoiling any of the excitement from the book, is there a particular highlight out of the book that you would like to share with our listeners?
I think that if you go to, there's the chapter about the students who have written him letters, who have been part of his training program. I just loved it because that was a firsthand view of people who he naturally influenced and not only taught about spay neuter, but taught about vet care and surgeries and gave them the means to go forward and carry this through. So that particular story. And then I would say The Forward by Esther Mechler. She talks about how she first met Jeff, and he's standing beside this renovated bus that turned into a clinic. And it was kind of unique. And she said, well, it just kind of happened, and they collaborated, and they did work with Spay USA together when it first started out and just transferred everything. From a peculiar kind of picture on the back cover of the book, Dr. Jeff standing in front of his bus, his first clinic, and then seeing it come to fruition with the students. And there's lots of animal stories in here too. Oh my gosh, there's so many animal stories. And if I could share the one animal story that I really liked the best was, it's from the show actually, but I talked to Jeff about it in particular. He helped a homeless man whose dog had broken its leg. The dog came in and the homeless man didn't have any money, and Jeff only charged him $100. And he said, but you have to make sure you bring him in for all the follow-up visits. And the homeless man did. And at the end of the story, the homeless man did pay him back. Not all at once. He didn't have it. He would bring in $5 one week, $5 the next week, $5 the next. And at the end, when he paid off the full $100, Jeff thanked him and shook his hand and said, he said, I have rich people who don't pay me, but you paid me everything. And you took good care of your dog too. So that's one of the most special stories, I think, in the book. And then probably the one where he saves Fred, his dog, who he adopted. A person brought him in. Fred was a golden retriever and had swallowed a sock. Well, the owners came in and they hemmed and hawed, and they kept saying, well, God tells us we don't have to do anything and we're going to take him home. And Jeff says, no, you cannot take this dog home. It will die if you take it home. And then they said, well, just euthanize him. And Jeff said, no, I don't think we're going to do this. He goes, I tell you what, he goes, I'll buy this dog off of you. You relinquish the dog to me and I'll pay you whatever it was, a couple $100. Well, sure enough, he got the sock out within a few minutes, 20 minutes or so. And he named him Fred. You know what happens when you name a pet. You become very attached. And the next thing we know, Fred was Jeff's dog forever and ever. Fred is still with us, but Jeff said, no, I'm not going to let this dog die. And he doesn't do that in every case, but in this particular case, Fred became his special angel dog. And what I like about Fred is Fred will go around the clinic with Jeff and sit beside him or Dr. Petra as they're doing surgeries. Sometimes he'll lay in the middle of the floor and he'll look like his eyes are at half mast, but they're not. He's watching everything that goes on in that clinic. And as the different animals are coming out of anesthesia, he'll go over and he'll check on them. He is literally an angel dog. And I have seen Fred in action. And Fred is just like the best dog ever. So those are some of the stories that I really like that stand out for me.
He's a clinic service dog.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
It's a new job description out there for dogs, and every clinic could have a service dog to monitor the animals on the beach.
Yeah.
Make sure that they're waking up appropriately and all of that. Well, it's really just fascinating. There are so many stories that are in this book, and I will just give a hint to folks that I liked the stories in Mexico with Tony and the support of creating spay-neuter initiatives down in Mexico. And I'm not going to share the details because I think that the story and the just wonderful open sharing of resources, everything is done on a handshake with Dr. Jeff. It's just, I trust you, I believe in you, and let's not worry about all the other details because it's going to all work out at the end. Be patient. And I think that is also a wonderful sort of belief. And I mean, not a lot of people trust other people, believe in humankind, right? And that's where Dr. Jeff really shines, is he really believes that there are people out there that we can support, partner, collaborate with just on our good faith that we are both good human beings. And it's very refreshing to see that. And I do think that was one of the themes that was transferred throughout in this book of yours, in the story. Every story had a series of gifts. There were always gifts either to Dr. Jeff or from Dr. Jeff to the community or from his staff, Petra, his wife. There's a giving culture there, giving without conditions.
Exactly. And he trusted me to write this book. I mean, I don't know exactly why, but I guess I was in the right place at the right time. But once he met me and once we started talking, it was, like you said, done on a handshake. And we just have done it over the last couple of years. So I've been so happy.
Well, and I'm really thrilled to be able to chat with you today. I want to make sure I mention this, and you can mention it again too, Beyond the Boundaries, The Life and Times of Dr. Jeff, the Rocky Mountain Vet. It's a beautiful book, beautiful, beautiful pictures that you also have. Front cover is just fantastically gorgeous. If you have one takeaway from this conversation, what would you like folks to take away with them as a memory piece for today's conversation?
Go beyond the boundaries yourself of what you think is possible and what you can do for your animals and for your life. And if you want a good story to read about it, read the book. Go beyond the boundaries.
United We Spay is sponsored by Marion's Dream. For over 40 years, they've led innovative programs to keep pets healthy, safe, and in loving homes. Discover more at marionsdream.org. And where would they find this book to be able to order it?
Right now, it's available exclusively online at either Amazon or barnesandnoble.com. And we are going to be doing some book signings in the future, but we don't have those all quite lined up yet. So right now, it's just on the 2 book sites.
Excellent. We'll make sure we update any information in the show notes when we release the show. Melinda, I want to thank you so much for being a guest today, and thank you to our listeners for tuning in and listening. If you liked this episode, be sure to share and subscribe. We release a new episode every month highlighting important conversations and inspirational stories from the spay-neuter movement in the United States and around the world. For more resources for spay-neuter and learn more about our work at unitedspayalliance.org, get in touch with us anytime at info@unitedspayalliance.org. And until next time, thank you so much, Melinda.
Thank you, Stacy. Have a great day.